me why the one time you need heavy cream, every store shelf looks like a Thanksgiving hurricane blew through the dairy aisle. And do you get the same sticker shock reaction that I get where you're like, wait, what? That's the price for this carton? But here's the thing, heavy cream isn't mystical. It is not some rare potion harvested from the center of the earth. It is milk and fat. That's it. And you probably have everything you need to make it right at home in 3 different ways. So in this video, I'm going to show you how heavy cream actually works. The fat ratios, the science behind thickness, and the exact substitutes to use depending on what's in your own kitchen. That's right, I'm gonna show you 3 methods. We'll compare them side by side, and I'll also answer any equipment questions that I can see you're already forming. Because by the end of this video, you'll never be out of heavy cream again. Okay, so let's start out at the beginning. What even is heavy cream? Well, first, it kind of depends on where you live. And heavy cream in the US has to be about 36% fat. Yup, that's the magic number that gives you thickness, richness, and the ability to whip it into a fluffy cloud. So anytime we're making heavy cream, we're not chasing a brand, we're chasing a fat percentage. Yeah, and once you understand that, everything clicks. Butter adds fat, milk adds water and proteins, and then powdered milk adds solids and emulsifiers. Even oil, the right kind, can mimic milk fat surprisingly well. And I say this because these recipes aren't fake food, we're recreating the ratio. So method 1 uses whole milk and butter, and this combination is great for everyday cooking. And method 2 uses half and half in butter, and this is the closest to store-bought cream. And even though I say that, don't sleep on method 3. Method 3 uses powdered milk, water, and oil, and this is your pantry powerhouse. So yeah, this is entirely it. And each has a purpose, each is gonna save you money, and each one of these takes less than 60 seconds to make. Grab your pan, baby doll. We're fixing to make 2 cups, so if you need less, just half it, and if you need more, just double it. Now, the very first thing you're gonna do is add your butter to the pan. I'm gonna go ahead and add 8 tablespoons, which is this whole stick of butter. Now, you wanna make sure that you just melt your butter low and slow. You don't wanna brown it unless you want a nutty flavor, which that is great for savory dishes, but not so great for desserts. Okay, so while the butter is melting, we're gonna pour our milk into a mixing bowl. And by the way, whole milk absolutely works the best because it's already giving you about a 3.25% fat. And you absolutely want every percentage point of fat working in your favor. But since you're gonna ask, 2% works in a pinch, but it's gonna give you a thinner result. And skim milk, don't even bother. Now the same is true for your nut milks. They will not work. And that's because the fat type is incompatible with the fat structure. Now as for oat milk, it will thicken, but it won't mimic cream. All right, so here's just another little technique note. Your butter should be fully melted, but you don't want it sizzling all over the place because if it's overheated, it will separate later on. So now you're gonna grab a whisk and we're gonna slowly drizzle in the melted butter. All right, friends, so here's the trick. You wanna pour your melted butter in slowly while you're whisking. Think like a drizzle. You don't wanna just dump. So I'm gonna drizzle here. And you wanna do it this way because slow incorporation helps to emulsify the fat, and dumping causes the butter to separate into droplets. And you don't want that. And I'm just gonna go ahead and whisk for another 30 to 45 seconds. All right, I'm gonna remove the whisk. So now you're just gonna let this sit for a few minutes because now the fat is going to start to re-solidify and the whole milk mixture is gonna thicken up just a bit, and that's the magic. Now in terms of your equipment options, I would say a whisk is gonna do just fine as long as you're making around like 1 to 2 cups. But you might wanna pull out your hand mixer if you're making anywhere between 3 to 6 cups, and then absolutely use a stand mixer if you're making a bulk batch. Okay friends, so we're right at under 2 minutes and I wanna show you what things should be looking like. So first you're gonna notice that you have this thicker layer across the top. And then here's a spoonful of the consistency of what you're working with. And so yes, this is going to be about the texture of your heavy cream milk. Now I know you're looking at this and you're like, Cassandra, that does not look like the store-bought stuff. No, ma'am, it won't because the store stuff is homogenized, and that just means that the fat has been blasted into tiny particles so that it stays silky for forever. And companies do that with industrial equipment that isn't even available for us home cooks. So yes, there is going to be some variance because we cannot recreate that at home. And so that's why when you mix melted butter with milk, some of that butter will resolidify into tiny specks, and you might even see some of those specks floating around. But this is our fat source, and this is exactly what you want. But don't fret, because only you and I know that your cream even looks like this, because the minute you toss a couple of tablespoons of this into soups or sauces or casseroles, the flakes melt right away. So if yours looks a little rustic, it means you did it right. So you want to store your homemade heavy cream in a glass jar with a tight lid, and then keep it in the fridge for 3 to 4 days. Lid it up. And when you go to use this, you just want to make sure that you shake it up a bit because natural separation will happen. Now let me show you method 2, which uses half and half in butter. And again, I'm making 2 cups worth, so cut it in half if you want less or double it if you want more. We're going to melt 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And now we're going to add 2 cups of cold half and half to a bowl. And you really do want to make sure that your half and half is cold because cold fat incorporates more evenly. All right, and our butter has melted beautifully. All right, same as before, we're gonna whisk in the butter. And I'm telling you, this one comes together beautifully. The fat content jumps into the cream territory almost instantly. Okay, friends, so I want to go ahead and point something out here because the half and half and melted butter version will sometimes pull or separate it first. It's not you, it's not the recipe, it's just the physics of fat temperature and emulsification. Your half and half is going to be colder than the melted butter, which is normally around 38 to 40 degrees. But that melted butter was somewhere between 90 to 100 degrees, so when it hits the cold milk, it just micro clumps. And that's because at home, we are using stirred, like hand stirred emulsification with our whisk. And commercial heavy cream is using pressurized homogenization. But as you let this sit out on your counter for another 10 to 15 minutes, you'll start to see that the fat starts to soften as the temperatures equalize. But I'm telling you, if you want the closest thing to store-bought cream for cooking, this one is it. Now, maybe I'm just being a little bit partial, but this is the one that you want to use for Alfredo, creamy soups, mashed potatoes, chowders. You're going to get a smooth and silky mouthfeel. Now, if you want your heavy cream substitute to look extra smooth, you can pop it into a blender for about 35 to 40 seconds. But you don't want to blend this for too long because you risk causing even more separation later on. So you really don't want to blend this for multiple minutes because you risk warming the mixture, which you don't want, and then whipping in extra air, and aeration is not what we want. We really do just want to leave it at the emulsification. And here's what we've got. All right, so here's our new texture. All right, and we'll cap this one as well. And the same requiring for shaking this right before you go to use it is true, and that just helps to incorporate everything. And there you have it, heavy cream made out of half and half and butter, which will last for 4 to 5 days in the fridge. And just in case you were wondering, half and half starts out around 10 to 12% fat. And then when we add butter, it bumps into about 30 to 35%. All right, friends, so now let's talk about the Pantry heavy cream method. And just so you know, this is the one that your grandma swore by when a snowstorm hit, because this is the recipe that you can make when stores are closed or the weather is wild, or you're like, I'm not leaving the house just to get one thing. I am gonna go ahead and show you how to make this recipe in a blender because out of all the 3, this is the one that benefits the most from being in a blender. And here's what the blender is going to do. It's going to hydrate the milk powder completely so that you don't end up with any graininess. It's also going to break the oil into micro droplets so that you get smooth and stable emulsion. And believe it or not, this is going to get you the closest texture to store-bought heavy cream. So grab your powdered milk, and I already have some here in this container. I just wanted to show you what it looks like. And I'm going to start by adding 1 cup of powdered milk. And we're going to match that with 1 cup of cold water. So this is the part where you could add a half to 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract if you're making something that's sweet. But we're not, so I'm just going to leave it plain. So you want to give this about 20 to 30 seconds on medium speed, which is just enough to fully dissolve the milk powder. Okay, that's perfect. So now we're going to go ahead and add 3 tablespoons of a neutral oil. Oh, and if you're not familiar with powdered milk, I mean, yeah, in terms of like color and consistency, yeah, there you go. Powdered milk. So I'm just using avocado oil. It's pretty neutral in taste. And this is the fat source that gives you that heavy cream richness. And we're going to go ahead and blend this for another 20 to 30 seconds. Cap back on. So now you're going to go ahead and pour this right into your pint jar, and you're going to let it rest for like 5 to 10 minutes. So what's going to happen over that wait time is that the powdered milk is going to continue to hydrate and it's going to thicken, and then you're going to end up with the creamiest, smoothest homemade heavy cream substitute of the bunch. Okay, friends, so it's been about 10 minutes and I want to go ahead and show you the texture that we're working with. Ooh, did you see that? Do you see this? Do you see the results from powdered milk? Yes. Hold on, here's the back end of that spoon. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful, right? Yeah. Yes, yes, and yes. See, I told y'all not to sleep on the powdered milk. Now, as I've mentioned before, this is not going to turn into whipped cream. None of these substitutes will. But for things like soups or casseroles or anywhere you need that richness, like in a quiche or macaroni and cheese, oh my goodness, this is absolutely going to lend that richness and that density and texture that you need. And after this finishes thickening up a bit, you're just going to pop it in the fridge for the next 5 to 7 days. And remember to shake it up as things start to settle. And with that, all that's left to do is cap it and stick it in the fridge. Okay, so before we compare everything side by side, let's do a little Q&A. So you might be asking yourself, can I whip any of these? Nope, sorry, darling. Homemade substitutes don't have the fat structure or the concentration to trap enough air. But you can thicken them with a tablespoon of cream cheese or a teaspoon of cornstarch. Another question you may have is, can I use nut milks? No, not at least for true cream behavior, because the fats are just structured differently. And because of that, they're never going to be able to emulsify into cream. You also might be thinking, okay, what is the best storage container? Keep it simple. Glass jars and tight lids. Plastics are going to absorb both the fats and flavor over time. Another question I might get is, can I freeze it? And you can, but the texture becomes grainy over time. But that won't matter too much if you're only using this recipe for actual like hot food cooking. Now, you might also be wondering, can you do any of these methods in a crock pot? And the answer to that is no. None of these methods are crock pot based because you actually are not cooking anything. In fact, that heat will work against you. So here's the thing. When it's not holiday time, heavy cream is expensive. And 9 times out of 10, you only need like a cup or 2 at a time. So knowing substitutions like this saves you money. It saves you time. I mean, this is what kitchen confidence really looks like, right? And that's understanding how things work so that you can pivot with whatever you have. And listen, if kitchen confidence is your thing and you like cooking with substitutions that really work, you should check out my Dinner's Done dispatch. It started as a weekly meal plan, but it's grown into so much more. This is where I teach you how to stretch ingredients, repurpose leftovers, and cook smarter, not harder. But it's also where we actually cook together. Inside the dispatch, I host real-time cook-along kitchen workshops. Everything from how to start canning while we actually can something together step by step, to cast iron care sessions, to full cohort-style cook-throughs where we make the weekly meal plan together, even if everyone has different dietary preferences. It's not just an email drop. It's a community, a place where we cook in real time with real support and build real kitchen confidence. So if you want dinners that are done without the stress and you want to cook alongside people that are learning with you, the link to that's below. That's right. I want to show up in your kitchen, not just in your inbox. Okay, so I know that I've been telling you when you go to use your whipping cream that it's going to mix in beautifully, but I don't want you to take my word for it. So let's make some oatmeal. Okay, perfect. We'll use this consistency. Okay, so I've grabbed everything from the fridge. This is our whole milk version. This is the powdered milk version. And here's the one we made with half and half. Let's go ahead and give everything a good shake. And we'll spoon in the oatmeal. Okay, friends, so let's do the whole milk and the melted butter version. And I want to show you what things are looking like. All right, so that's after, I gave everything a shape. So let's see what happens. And again, this oatmeal, it's still can you see any steam? Yeah, you can see some of the steam. It's still really warm. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just pour some in. Okay, look, right? As soon as it starts to hit the warm oatmeal, it just melts right in, right? There's no curding, there's no weird textures, right? It's just instant creaminess, right? Like here's our glass bowl that's here. Can you see that? Let me lift you up a little bit. Yeah, right? Nothing weird here at all. This is delicious. And this is exactly what you can expect in soups, sauces, casseroles, anything warm. Okay, so now we're gonna move quickly to the half and half and butter version. Here's our oatmeal. Okay, so let's go ahead and pour some in. And again, I think that this one is actually even smoother because the half and half already has the fat that's built in. Let me go ahead and pour some more in here. Yeah, right? Like, oh my goodness. I mean, just look at this silky, creamy texture. Again, it blends right in seamlessly, right? So again, I say that if you want the closest match to store-bought cream, then this is gonna be your star. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and use our powdered milk and oil version. This is the one that I made in the Ninja, and I just want you to watch this swirl. It's gonna be thick and glossy. And again, it looks so much, I mean, look at this. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, just outside of, like, this version just grips onto the oatmeal in the prettiest way. And that's because the powdered milk adds body and the blender creates a really stable emulsion. Oh my goodness. Excellent. Beautiful. Okay, so here's the thing. If you had to tell me which cream I used in which bowl, could you do it? You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to set aside like the original. So like this is the heavy whipping cream. This is all the oatmeal that I have left. But let's go ahead and pour that in here now. Right? And look, y'all, it poured just the same way. Right? Again, it's not going to be noticeable when you go to add this to warm food. But just to remind you, this was the whole milk mixture. This is the half and half. And the one on the end was the powdered milk. For more recipe inspiration, click the video on your screen. I'll see you in my kitchen or garden soon. Take care, friends.